All right. All right.
All right. Are we starting? Are we here?
I think so. This
All right.
this
We're
is
in it.
two whole people.
Two whole people.
And this is going to be a podcast about data engineering, data science, software in general. It's just going to be about basically whatever we want it to be about, but with kind of a focus on tech.
Yeah, it's like how to be a professional nerd.
Yeah, great. And then for this episode, which is our first episode, actually first off, why should anyone care about what the heck we have to say about things?
Yeah,
Kevin?
that's a great question. Because
who are you and what do you do?
We really don't look very official here.
I
But
think we look good.
yeah. So my technical title is I'm the director of product development at a little tech company in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's called MTI, and I just write code pretty much all day, and it's fun and it's great. But it definitely took some bumps and bruises along the way to get there. So we thought we might share our experiences and give you guys something to learn from, and hopefully not make the same mistakes that we did.
Yeah, and so I've been friends with Kevin for a while. We don't work at the same job, but
No, we do not.
we went to school together. We got our bachelor's together at Grand Canyon U.
GCU.
Went through a lot of fun times there. We were
Yeah, great. A lot of purple.
yeah, a lot of purple.
A lot of purple.
We were a part of the program that was new the year that we joined there, the computer science program there that was new the year that we joined. So each class that we took, we were the guinea pigs. So it was a ton of fun.
Yes.
We have a lot of experiences with trying to figure out how to do things that actually weren't possible. But yeah, aside from that, I've been a data scientist, a data engineer. I've been a BI dev, a lot of data focused software roles in my life. So right now I work as a data engineer at a startup, and I've been doing that for about a year now, actually. So we're here to try to give advice to people who are maybe coming out of college. I think might be the primary focus of what we're talking about, the transition from college life into the real world of code.
Yeah.
Because it's just very different.
It is. It's really different, and it's different from what everybody tells you. So that's going to be like the subject of this whole first episode is the difference between the culture shock. I like that.
Yeah.
Culture shock.
Yeah. The culture shock you get trying to transition between college and the real world job world. A real world job.
Real job.
Nailed it. All right. So to start, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm a good Connor, by the way. I don't know if I said my name, but I'm Connor.
That's Connor.
Yep. What's up, guys? All right. What do you think is one of the things that people should look out for in the transition from their college life into the real world on-the-job experience?
So my first point that I thought of sounds harsh. So don't turn this off when you first hear it, but you aren't worth as much as you think you are. So I learned this the hard way. I thought I was the coolest. I thought I was the bee's knees, all that in a bag of chips, whatever. But I got to my job. I was a data analyst, I think was my first job out of college. And I got there and I thought I was the coolest. Everybody's like, whoa, I didn't know you could even do that with code. That's so cool. And so I go into this meeting, I think I was about a year in, and my bosses, so we were a really small company, so my bosses were like the top guys, and it was me and another guy. There was like 6 people in this room. And they're like, hey, we really appreciate everything that you're doing. You're doing so great. We want to give you more responsibility. And I was like, oh, awesome. I'm going to get a raise. I've been like researching everything that I'm worth. I think that I'm so cool. And like, yeah, I'm finally going to make that money that everybody told me I was going to make right out of college. So they tell me, yeah, so basically this is just a raise or like a promotion in like name only. Like, you're not getting any more money. Which is kind of like, it's kind of mean.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. But also, I had to remember, and my boss actually explained this to me later. We have a really good relationship now. But I was just out of college, and I presented more risk to the company than I did reward. So as a young college grad who doesn't have any experience, they don't know how good you are. Like, you have to prove that you can get your projects done. You have to prove that you know what you're doing. So I had a huge shouting match with my boss, which is definitely not the way to go. If you're going to have a discussion with your boss, don't yell. Because I did, and it did not go well. I almost got fired. I was very close. But
yeah, that piece seems like a bit of obvious advice, maybe.
Yeah,
but
don't yell at your boss.
Scream at the person that
that's the kind
hired.
of insight that you want to get from this podcast. Is don't scream at your boss.
Don't bite the hand that pays you.
Yeah. So I started yelling, and I did eventually get a raise, like a real raise. My manager kind of stuck up for me, not to me, but he went to my boss, and he was like, "Yeah, I think that Kevin does have a point, and whatever." But it really got back to me when my boss circled back with me a couple of years later, actually, and talked about that. And he was saying, like, you didn't present as much value to the company as you thought you did.
And we're not talking about value as a human being.
Yes.
We're talking
Correct.
about...
Correct. We're talking about monetary value.
Yeah, we're talking about the value in terms of the business value that you can bring to the company itself. In terms of, and even if you're the smartest person at the college you went to, if you got all A's, if you nailed all of your homework, the specific value that a company needs, first off, varies depending on the company that you work for.
Yes.
So the skill set required might not be the same at every company, although there's going to be a lot of overlap if you're in the software world. But it takes time to figure out exactly how you can provide the value for a company that they would actually need from you, and it just won't be what you think it's going to be. When you first get there, it takes patience, and it just takes time. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of conversations with the business people, and you just have to learn how to be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it did eventually work itself out, and I got promoted, and I was able to eventually figure out how to provide that value, and I went from being a data analyst to being a senior software engineer, learning a whole new language and doing like full stack development, which is a huge leap from what I was taught in college. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
That's my first point.
Yeah, first bit of advice, and we'll be speaking a lot from our personal experience here to back up our points. And that may vary depending on the company, depending on the school, depending on everything else. But, we can only speak to which we've actually experienced. So that's going to be kind of what we focus on. And for me, I kind of went through the same thing that Kevin did. When I got to the company that I first got to, it wasn't really a startup type of environment. It was a larger company that had tons of people in the IT space, that had tons of experience, that had been in the industry for years and years and years. And when I got there, it was disheartening at first, because I realized, compared to a lot of these people, I know nothing. I thought I knew something, and I know nothing. I thought that a bachelor's in computer science would catapult me ahead to where I need to be in terms of knowledge, and it for sure helped. But I realized very quickly that there was a lot of road ahead of me. But that's a good thing. You want to be in a company where you're not the smartest person in the room.
Absolutely.
Because then you can actually learn from the people around you. If you are the smartest person in the room, then you should be getting paid a lot. But especially when you begin your software journey, and you're a person that's kind of right out of the college world, you should. it is okay not to know everything, and you need to be very vocal about that, and you need to be very open to learning from your peers around you. I think that you'll find a lot of people who are older and more experienced want to help you out, and they want to see you learn and grow, and they want to see you excel, because if you excel, then they excel, and the company excels, and everyone makes more money, and hopefully the customers that the company provides the product or service for also excel, because the product or service that you're providing is also going to be better if you do your job well. So I think that's probably a good place to slot the what exactly did we say? You aren't worth as much as you think you are.
Yeah.
So just
it's a
keep
great
that in
point.
mind. Yeah.
What a way to start a podcast.
Yeah, we're just gonna open it up by rating the non-existent audience that we don't have yet. It's great.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Hopefully you are listening.
Yeah.
And hopefully you didn't turn it off right after I said that, because that would be unfortunate.
Yeah. The 4 people watching, all of which are our parents.
And our wives. Our wives will watch this, probably. I don't know about
probably
that.
not.
My wife will turn it on and mute it.
Yeah.
In the background.
And then she'll watch Friends or something.
Yeah.
Which, I can't blame her.
Yeah.
Okay, next point, which was my first point, which is to learn a technology stack from top to bottom, full stack, back end and front end. Do a project in which you create the database on the back end, in which you create the UI on the front end, if it's a website or some sort of application, and then do the work to connect the two so that they can talk to one another and perform the operations that they need to perform. And the reason why I'm saying to learn a tech stack is because, and this might be different depending on the college that you've gone to, but when we went to college, even in our last year, I don't think I knew what a stack even was.
No.
We learned a lot about the theory of computer science and the theory of compilers and parsers and a lot of the stuff that is important to learn about how it is that we are even able to code in the way that we are now. But in terms of what you actually need to learn on the job so that you can provide value again for the business, it's all, you just got to learn a tech stack and you got to get very good at it.
Yes.
And I don't even care which tech stack you learn, because a lot of the concepts and a lot of that which you go through in trying to learn one, it's going to be those will translate well across to other tech stacks. So and I got a couple here that are popular that I'll just toss out, but the mean stack, the MERN stack, the LAMP stack. There's a Flask stack that's, I think, mostly in Python. If you like Python, I know that's become a popular language nowadays, especially with people trying to get into the software world. But learn a full stack, do a full stack project of some sort, so that you have to take care of the back end, the front end, and link everything together so that you will be able to understand a lot of the vocabulary that is tossed around in IT conversations, because you'll have actually gone through trying to set these things up and you'll know more about what they mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to do this. We use a stack called Laravel. It's a PHP stack. And I had to learn the full stack in order to start developing our app that we're using. And it definitely poked a lot of holes in my knowledge of code. I was very discouraged when I started learning, because I realized I knew nothing about practical development. I knew all theory, but I didn't know anything practical. And I think that was one of the biggest culture shocks coming from college to development in the real world.
Yeah, it's that most of what you learned is, nice, but if you want to actually get a job in software engineering, then there's a completely different kind of skill set that you need. But hopefully most schools aren't like that. But I'm not trying to bash GCU at all and saying that, because it was a computer science major, which is the theory of, about how all of that stuff was brought up and how it all works on the back end, how we had a course on assembly at some point that was the hardest class that we will never use in the real world.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's
we know it
neat.
Now. Well,
yeah.
kind of.
I don't know about that. Okay, so yeah, and I think we both wrote down these 2 points kind of on our own, and then when we came back together to talk about what we were going to talk about on this podcast or video. Is this a podcast?
Podcast, video,
pod.
Yeah.
And that was, you need to care about what the business people think. Yeah. And what we mean by that is you need to learn from the business majors. And we know, I'm assuming that if you're in an IT, if you're trying to get a STEM degree of some sort at all, and you're in the engineering mindset, there's a stereotype, right, of like the business major who does nothing.
Yeah.
And like has to do zero homework and all of their stuff is easy, and it's like
we're sitting in our dorms crying, and they're out partying.
Yeah.
And they still get A's, obviously.
Yeah, and like we're doing the real work. We're doing the engineering work that is like that actually what gives the company its value. It's like there's like a but no, okay, kind of yes, but no, no. We need business majors. We need people who can comprehend the company, who know how the business operations work, who can help to guide you through how to instantiate what the business operations are into code. Because if you don't know what the company does, if you don't have a deep understanding of how the interactions work with the customer, then it's great that you know how to code, but there's not a lot that you can do in terms of the practicality of, what do I do next? I know how to code, but what do I do next to help out the company? And that's where you need the business people to come in and help you out. And there's a lot of skills that they have that they can help you out with. And I don't know if you wanted to talk to that.
Yeah, that's super true. So I definitely had that attitude going into work. Even I catch myself doing it now. It's like, well, I'm the developer. We are a software company, so who's really doing the work here?
Kneel before me, peasants.
We've had actually super recently, we've had a bunch of just kind of team meetings where all of the people from the sales team and our customer service, well, less customer service, more like just customer outreach, and our marketing teams, they all get out there, and I always get emails from them and stuff like that, like, hey, we need to do this. And I never understood why. But after talking to them and them kind of showing me like, hey, this is what they're trying to do with our app, I realized whether or not that's what I was trying to develop, if that was on my development plan, on my roadmap, on, my task list, I realized that they knew what the user wanted, and they were able to translate that to me so that I could then move it over. So one of the big things is this kind of pride that we get with a STEM degree. And I'm not saying that it's not okay to be proud that you made it through, a hard degree, because computer science was rough. It was a rough degree, and I'm proud that I made it through it. But also, we have to remember that there are a lot of degrees that give people a lot of skills, and we need to be able to learn and be well-rounded when we get into the workforce, and that will make you a lot of friends, whereas being prideful and being like, hey, I know more than you, I'm the developer, will make you a lot of enemies.
Yeah, it will. And there's there's one skill in particular too that I feel like the business people kind of, I don't know if they're born with it or it's just because they party so much that that's what they're practicing. But one thing that you can learn from them is how to speak.
Yes.
To people who don't know how to code. That's very important.
Yeah.
because business people, and I'm talking about salespeople, I'm talking about project leads, I'm talking about project managers, I'm talking about like CEOs, and people in those roles that are kind of more up top, that where they more have to manage what is going on inside of the company, but aren't doing the actual work
day-to-day
at
stuff.
the down. Yeah. And it's very easy to begin to feel resentful, towards those people. I feel like if you're in IT and you're like, well, why does this person who is telling me what to do making more than me, if they are, but that's just their jobs are so difficult. They have to talk to different teams at the company and to translate across different levels of knowledge, in terms of, okay, how abstract should I speak? What level of abstraction should I speak to when I'm speaking with the CEO, or when I'm speaking with the software engineer, or when I'm speaking with one of the other project leads on this other team over here? And to do that is very difficult, but it's a thing that you can learn from them, and you can speak with them more and ask them ways in which you could improve yourself, not necessarily along the lines of technology, because you're probably the expert in that realm. But I mean, you need to be able to talk to people is kind of what I'm getting to. And regardless of, I know there's a lot of people in IT who think that they can get that degree and become a coder, and just they sit behind a desk or they sit at home and they don't have to talk to anyone, and that might even be a major reason why they got that, is because I don't want to have to deal with people. I'm just going to become a genius at this thing. But you got to be able to communicate effectively with different people at the company who have different sets of knowledge about what the heck you're talking about. And you can learn how to do that at a lot of companies, but I think you just need to practice and just ask people for help, and talk to people and ask if you can lead this meeting or whatever. So that's and that's a skill that I think a ton of the business people have, and it's one that you can learn, but you have to be nice to them and ask them for help, and which means you can't hate them. So
yeah. Yeah, but that's definitely true. Communication is the number one skill in any role. I don't think I've ever seen a job posting, or we've ever posted a job posting, that didn't have communication as a required skill. And that's the number one thing that we're looking for, because if you can't communicate with people, even people you don't like, that's big. Is people you don't like are going to be everywhere, because people suck sometimes. That's just true.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to communicate with these people and still get your job done and help the company reach its goals, because that's ultimately what your team and your company are aiming to do, is make money and reach their goals.
Yep. And you can't do that at a company where there are certain people who can't talk to other people, or who don't know how to talk to other people, or who are hard to work with because you don't know what they're saying.
Yep.
Because it's hard to get things across, and so that's just a skill that you absolutely need to work on. And the reason why I'm stressing that so much is because I know in the IT world there might be kind of this thought that is going around where you don't have to worry about that if you're in IT. Yes, you do. You have to. So you got to work on it. Go to, I don't know, if you can't talk to people, go and practice ordering a fast food restaurant or something. I don't know, but you got to start somewhere, and you just got to work your way up. So
yeah.
All right. So
we digress.
Make friends with the business people, because they have things that you need to know, and because they can help you grow in ways that some of your other IT colleagues can't. So that's that. Don't just hate on people. in general. This is now life advice. Don't hate.
Don't hate people.
Unless they're like, I don't know, they're like Hitler or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, this is a quick one. Use a linter.
Yes.
If
this
you
is
don't,
a quick practical advice.
yeah, just if you want to get better at coding, whether it's Python or C++ or Java or SQL, just use a linter. Most IDEs that you program in, they're going to have some sort of option where you can download either an extension or a package, or you can buy one off of the marketplace, but I feel like most of them are free. Let's see, what is a linter? All it basically does is as you write code and then you hit save, it's going to scan your entire body of code, and it's going to tell you if how you're coding is up to the best practices that it currently has. And there's like sets of guidelines. Like I think for Python there's one that's called PEP 8 or something. There's a bunch of PEPs, but there's sets of guidelines that a lot of devs have come to, over years and years and years of coding, like ways that you should code that is either the most efficient or leads you to write the least amount of code to accomplish the same task. And a linter is just going to scan your code base and tell you this is not up to the standard of the current up-to-date conclusion that a lot of devs have drawn from what the standards should be when you are trying to write code. And if you just have that on in the background while you write code for just a few months even, it's like you're going to get way better. And like all that stuff is going to be ingrained into your head because you won't want it to yell at you that you aren't doing things the best way. So that's just a quick one because it's just a fast way to like while you're doing your dev work, you can very quickly learn how to program in a very, very optimal way.
Yeah. And one thing to point out too is a lot of companies have style guides, and some companies even provide you with linter files. If you're using like VS Code or something like that, they'll give you the configuration for your linter, and you'll be able to just use that. Like we have one that's kind of company wide for the 2 developers we have right now. But it makes it super easy. So you get the general idea really soon of like how your code should look. So if you write a method and you're looking at it and you're like, that just doesn't look right. It returns what it's supposed to return, but it just doesn't feel right. You'll start to get those feelings, and that's just you improving as a developer. Because the thing that I was always taught in college, and I was actually reading over our assignments last night, it was always like, if your code runs, it's fine. And that's like... That's technically true.
Sure.
But there's going to be you're going to go through a lot of review and like... What's it called? Code churn, when you have to redo your code?
Yeah. So why that's not great is because if you work at a company, if you are in college, your programming assignments are just going to be seen and read by you and maybe the teacher. If the teacher doesn't just run the code and see if it works, and then you get a pass or fail based on that. But in a company, that code that you are trying to write is going to have to be maintained by teams of developers who need to be able to read your code and know what it does just by reading it.
Yep.
So you need to follow a style guide.
Yes.
if you want other devs to be appreciative when they see the work that you've done in terms of, this person takes into account the fact that we all are going to have to do a bug fix, go back in, read their code again at some point.
Yep.
This is a solid dev who knows that there are other people besides them that are going to have to read their code and know what the heck is going on. So that's why these guides are so important. That, and if I mean, that's just talking about the style of it. But if we're talking about writing efficient code, if you're turning in a project for school and it's not very efficient, it's like, well, who cares? The teacher might just have to wait a tiny bit longer for it to run before they can give you a score. But in the real world, it's like, well, there could be a customer on the front end of the application,
Yep.
and they've hit a button to submit some sort of approval, and if the code is written in a dirty, nasty way that's not very efficient, then it's going to take longer for that approval process to get back to the customer, which leads to a worse customer experience for them on the front end, which is going to hurt the business.
Yep.
Either the business will be able to perform less transactions over time, or less people are going to want to use the service because it's just a slow piece of garbage. So make sure to follow style guides and to try to write efficient code. It's not,
otherwise you're just going to make slow pieces of garbage.
you're
He's fine.
This is what you get for calling people pieces of
cut that.
This is what you get for calling people pieces of garbage. We've called them completely worthless and pieces of garbage, or they write pieces of garbage. They're worthless people who write pieces of garbage.
Yeah. Well, no, they're not worthless. They're just worth less than they think they are.
Well, yeah.
And then they write slow pieces of garbage.
Okay, well, it's a good thing we don't have an audience, because we would just be dumping on them. Okay, we're at the 31-minute mark. That's pretty good. So, and then we have one more to go through, I think.
Yep.
And then I think that timing is going to be solid. So,
Yeah.
Kevin, would you like to kick off our final tip
point
here?
Yeah, so this is something that I struggled with when I was a young developer first learning actual software engineering, is good code is not 100% bug free. Obviously you've got tests, and we could talk about those in another podcast, but bugs just happen. You can't account for all of them all the time. Dev reviews are going to find them, and QA testers are going to find them. It doesn't mean that your code is bad. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means you made a mistake, and there's mistakes in every piece of code, and there will be bugs in every piece of code. So I think that's one of the big things that was also a huge shock for me coming out of college, because in college, a bug is like a letter grade down. If your code runs into an error in a certain thing, you get 10 points off of your assignment. And, it makes you feel like a failure if your code doesn't work in every circumstance. But the truth is, in the real world, a good piece of code that all of your managers will be happy with has bugs. It's just a thing.
Yeah. And you get used to developing on a weekly or a bi-weekly type of a pace, where you submit things, you see if there's errors, and then you fix them, and then you submit things, you see if there's errors, and then you fix them. It's much more like trial and error.
Yeah.
On the actual job, and in school, it's you gotta craft this perfect assignment and then pray to God that it performs precisely the way that you would want it to. But yeah, on the job, it's way more you gotta crank it out, write good code and write efficient, optimal code. But there's going to be bugs. You'll normally have tests to try to catch those, and then you're going to have code reviews with a bunch of other people. That's where I normally catch a lot of the bugs. I get it working. I make my pull request in GitHub, which just allows me to review, see all of the changes that I've made, and then I'll go through it first, see if there's any bugs or any misnamings of certain things that I can find, and then I can toss it out to my colleagues, and they can just rip it to shreds.
Yes, and which always happens, by the way.
Yeah,
don't take it personally.
Do not take it personally. Remember, you are worthless.
Yes.
So when your colleagues tear your PR to shreds, and they tell you to go and fix this piece of garbage because it's awful, that's good.
That means they care.
Yes, you take all of the advice that they give, take all the comments that you have in your PR and go and fix it up to the best of your ability. Test it again, put it back out there, and do it over and over again until
everybody approves it.
Yeah.
And that's one big thing is I used to take PR reviews super personally until like the guy who reviews all of our PRs, like ultimately, and the guy who's been doing it for me for years since we were a tiny little startup. I wouldn't say he was harsh, but he wasn't exactly nice about the way that we reviewed PRs. So when I would get it back, I would feel like a failure. I felt like garbage. But he eventually told me like, hey, I'm trying to make you better. Like every time I correct something in your PR and I don't just like do it myself, or I tell you like, hey, you should look at this. Hey, you should try this. You should do this. I'm trying to make you a better developer. Because I could just go in there and do it all myself. Obviously, I know how to do it. But like asking you to do it and pointing these things out and sharing that knowledge is going to make you better. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So you don't just hate me then. Cool. And so from then on, I'm not exactly excited for PR reviews, but
they're good.
Yeah, it's definitely not a personal attack.
You got to learn how to do stuff right.
That's right.
Or you're just going to keep on being wrong.
And be a slow piece of garbage.
Yeah, worthless. All right. This is too much. We're being too
But
terrible.
We're hammering that point too hard.
All right. Well, I think this has been the first episode of Two Whole... They don't even know why it's called Two Whole People.
Oh, that's another college nugget right there.
So the reason why it's called Two Whole People is because... I'm 6'8", and I basically... Like I'm basically 1.5 people.
Yeah, and
right?
I'm also 6'8". So that's
no. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. You are a leprechaun.
I'm like almost 6 feet tall.
So he's basically like half a person, and I'm basically 1.5 people. So together,
we're 2 whole people.
2 whole people.
Yeah,
it's an awful.
I don't remember why that came up.
I don't know.
I think we were sitting on a sitting on a couch, and it was like, that's meant for 2 people, and they were like, it was just us. I don't know why somebody would say that to us, though.
I don't know.
And we were like, we are 2 people. See, I'm half a person,
and I'm like 1.5 people, and so
it's
we're
2 whole people. Yeah,
it's a bad joke. We should.
Yeah,
but
it was way funnier.
It's the name of the. It's the name of the podcast. Also, it's nothing to do with like software.
No, it doesn't.
That's fine. Who cares?
It'll be all right.
We can do whatever we want, and we'll fail if it's awful.
This is America. We can do what we want here.
Okay, we should end this.
Yeah, before we start.
There's no one listening now. There's been no one this whole time, but there's definitely no one listening now.
Anybody who thought about clicking on this has stopped. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, wait, no, hold on.
Good. There we go.
Hold on, no. I gotta. Okay, so if there is anyone listening, which at this point there definitely isn't, but if there is,
we'll just move this.
Okay, so data engineering, data science, software dev in general. Big data, dashboarding, reporting, data mining, data cleaning, optimal programming techniques, writing efficient code, SQL, Python, JavaScript, C++. We'll do anything. We'll do anything. If you have any ideas for us, then just post those in the comments. I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
And if you want us to dive deeper into any of the topics that we talked about, then please also just post a comment and say, hey, I thought that this was interesting. If you have any critiques or you think that we've done something wrong, blast us apart. Destroy us in the comments. Absolutely light our souls on fire.
This feels great. This
feels
like a great idea.
I want to feel the brimstone.
Let's ask the internet to roast us. That feels like a great plan.
The one person watching this can go like, it was bad, and then we'll just
we'll cry.
But what are we doing wrong? We have no idea how to do this. So
yeah,
we're just going off of like this mic is stacked on top of books.
Mine too,
for God's sake. All right. The end.
Bye.